Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back and it is Monday, October 28th, and it is 10:03 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope everyone is doing well. I didn't record yesterday. Well, actually, I did my show. It just didn't record. So I was trying to upload it and I thought, okay, there doesn't seem to be anything here. And I realized that it hadn't recorded. So I was both angry and mostly angry. Yeah. Well, I felt a little stupid too, but mostly angry. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to do that tonight. We're going to do that as well as catch up on the new news. So it'll probably take 2 videos. All right, sorry. Let's get started here. And we go over here and I just have, not here, here we go. And I want to thank Alan, who's a fellow Canadian, for being a coffee donor, and also IK. And they say that, I don't know if it's a male or a woman, or male or female, so I'm not sure what to say for their pronoun, but it says that I am their news muse. So I like that. I got a kick out of that. So thank you guys so much for your donations. It's very much appreciated. All right, now let's just jump right in here. And I think I've got it already pulled up here. And I'm sure everybody has heard by now. I should have actually got this to you yesterday, and I apologize, but by the time I realized I had just gone over an hour and it didn't record, I was exhausted. It was like it's getting close to midnight. So anyway, we can do it. We can do it now. It's just that the news won't be quite as, well, new. But I'm sure everybody has heard about al-Baghdadi being killed. He was an ISIS leader, and it is quite fascinating to see everybody's reactions. Quite fascinating indeed. The reactions run the whole gamut. So anyway, let's just kind of get into this. This is President Trump, and he is addressing the ISIS leader's death. It's very short, so I wanted to play this for you.
I want to thank the soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines involved in last night's operation. You are the very best there is anywhere in the world. No matter where you go, there is nobody even close. I want to thank General Mark Milley and our Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I also want to thank our professionals who work in other agencies of the United States government and were critical to the mission's unbelievable success. I want to thank the soldiers and sailors, airmen, and Marines.
It's just starting over now. So, of course, that is President Trump thanking, the military who did a phenomenal job. Now, I'll tell you, I didn't have too much trouble believing this yesterday. In fact, I heard about this in the middle of the night. Well, I guess it would have been Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday night. And I remember thinking, he was having that press conference first thing in the morning at 9 o'clock. And I remember thinking, no, that was Saturday night. And he had the press conference at 9 o'clock on Sunday, which I thought was highly unusual. So I knew it had to be something big. People were, tossing around ideas of what they thought it was. But one of the ideas was the fact that this Al-Qaeda leader, or this ISIS leader had been killed. So I listened to it, but I was kind of reading everything in the middle of the night on Saturday. I couldn't sleep because there was just seemed to be a lot going on and a lot of news breaking. So, and at that time I didn't have any trouble at all believing it, but I just heard today that they have given him a burial at sea. And that kind of made me think back to Osama bin Laden and them dumping him in the sea. Now, I realize that the reasoning for that, certainly, I think anybody can understand the reasoning for that. The last thing they want to do is bury this guy and give everybody a place to pay homage to him, and treat him like he is some martyr and, some God. So I know that is why they do that. And plus, I've heard that there is shame involved in burial at sea. I don't know. I don't know why that would be, but anyway, perhaps in the Muslim faith it is. I'm not sure. If anybody knows the answer to that, please put it in the comments below. But it just seemed a little odd to me because, well, first of all, I know that the whole thing with Osama bin Laden, maybe they did kill him, but a lot of that was faked because I remember the night that that happened, and I've always been one to stay right on top of the news. Of course, I don't get my news from the same place that most people get it, CNN and so forth. I get it from alternate sources and, people that, keep each other informed and so forth. But I remember that, and I remember thinking, okay, it's, I don't know, it was really late at night, and here is Washington, D.C., and the cameras go to Washington, D.C., and all these young people are celebrating and hooting and hollering, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, it just broke on the TV that Osama bin Laden's been killed. All right, so I'm thinking, okay, now if I'm in D.C. and I'm a student, and I wasn't even born when the trade towers went down. I mean, I was, but I'm saying if I was a student their age and I hadn't even, it happened before I was born, which a lot of these people that were celebrating, it happened before they were born. And here they are on a school night out there hooting and hollering, and they've got these big floodlights all set up, and these guys all have their cardboard signs. Now, I was thinking, okay, I've been in college a lot because I've got several degrees. And the last thing I would think of doing on a school night is seeing something on TV and thinking, wow, I'm going to go get the poster board that I've got lying around in the back room and some markers, and I'm going to make a sign, and I'm going to go down to the White House and celebrate with everyone. Well, first of all, how do you know that anybody be there? Second of all, gee, you have all this poster board and all these, markers and everything just lying around the house. Most people don't keep poster board hanging around, but these people had very nicely made up signs. They didn't look like they were made in a hurry, and yet it had just been announced, and they've got cameramen there, and they've got all these big floodlights and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, this entire thing is staged, because first of all of these kids, they don't even understand the implication of what has just happened, if it did indeed happen. So I happen to think that he was dead before that, but hey, what do I know? Everything is faked these days, and we don't know what is real and what isn't, but I'm telling you that there is absolutely not a chance that spontaneous, celebration was not staged. There's no chance at all, because here's the other thing. Let's just say it spontaneously erupted. People, had a poster board laying around and they all ran down to the White House to celebrate. Okay, fine. But why didn't that happen in any other place on earth? Why didn't it happen? I mean, there's many, many major cities. Why didn't it happen in New York City? Which, if anybody had reason to celebrate, it would be New York City, but nothing like that happened there. It was only Washington, D.C., and they had it right on camera, and they played it over, to enrage the Muslims. So, yeah, didn't really get a good feeling about that at all. I knew I was being played, and the public was being played, but when I heard again that, okay, he's been buried at sea, something in me, I don't like that. Now, you guys, you're free to disagree. I'm not asking that anyone agree with me. You don't have to. We think differently. We're two different people, because if we thought the same, one of us wouldn't be necessary, right? So that's fine. I'm not intimidated at all by people that don't think like I do, and you are more than welcome to your opinion, but let me know what your opinion is and how you came to that conclusion, because I would be interested. Anyway, let's go on here, because I'm getting stuck in the chat mode, and although it's important chat. Now, let's listen to Pelosi. I'm sorry to do this, you guys. Really, I am. I know. So this is, Lisa Mae Crowley put this up, and she is a good person to follow on Twitter if you don't already. She's very, very knowledgeable. She's a vet, not a veterinarian. She's a veteran, and she's just very, very knowledgeable. Anyway, she posted this, and it says, Maria Bartiromo reads Speaker Pelosi's petty statement on last night's operation. So predictable. And indeed, it is. So let's listen to what Pelosi had to say.
ISIS, Nancy Pelosi writes, she says the House must be briefed on this raid, which the Russians, but not top congressional leadership, were notified of it in advance, and on the admissions.
Now, I want to stop right there. It says, let me go back just a second here. She says, the death of al-Baghdadi is significant, but the death of the ISIS leader does not mean the death of ISIS. So right away, she's throwing cold water on it. Right away. She doesn't want Trump to have too much credit there. It's like, yeah, okay, well, it is significant that the leader of ISIS is dead, but, doesn't mean that ISIS is dead. Well, nobody said it was, Nancy. Nobody said ISIS is dead. Do you think they're going to just roll over and bury themselves? No, they're not. We understand that, but we don't need you to throw cold water on this and take away from the achievements of this administration, which is all she's trying to do. And she says, does not mean the death of ISIS. Well, no, duh. The House must be briefed on the raid. No, actually, they don't. The House is not, they are the judicial branch of government. The judicial branch. They don't have anything. They make the laws. They don't enforce them. So no, actually, it is not out of the ordinary for them not to be briefed. Why weren't they briefed? Well, I asked myself that. Now, why would Trump not brief them? Oh, I understand now, because they're all traitors. And if he briefed them, don't you think one of those leaky, Pelosi or Schiff would have leaked it over to, somebody over there, and that could have meant the lives of our men and women in the service. Like, hello, it makes perfect sense to me why he wouldn't tell them. None of them can be trusted, and they don't need to know anyway. They make the laws. They don't have anything to do with that, and they do not have to be informed, and they weren't. So get over it, Pelosi. Get over it. So anyway, says the House must be briefed on this raid, which the Russians, but not top congressional leadership
were notified of it.
Were notified of it in advance, and on the administration's overall strategy in the region. Well, no kidding, Nancy. The Russians were in on it. The Russians were helping. The Russians want to get rid of ISIS as bad as we do. So no kidding, we would inform them what we're doing over there. The last thing we would do is be, over there with doing a military whatever and not inform the Russians who are also in the same area. Like, hello, does she ever think? Like, honestly. Of course they informed the Russians. They had to. And so, but she's making it sound like, oh yeah, Trump's so in with Putin, had to tell Putin, but wouldn't tell us. Well, at this point, Putin's a whole lot more dependable and reliable than they are, right? I'd trust him a whole lot more than I do her and Schiff and the whole bunch of them, Schumer. So anyway, and it says, our military and allies deserve strong, smart, and strategic leadership from Washington. Well, they won't get it from you, Pelosi.
In advance and on the administration's overall strategy in the region, our military and allies deserve strong, smart, and strategic leadership from Washington, writes Nancy Pelosi. I'm talking with Christian Whiting right now from the State Department. And Christian, your reaction on Nancy
Now listen
Pelosi's
to what he has to say. It's good.
Well, I think that's a petty and disgusting statement from someone who has become deranged with politics. Just say thank you, well done. We love our troops. You did a great job. We notified the Russians before the House. Well, guess what? She leads a different branch of government. It's the legislative branch. They make laws. They don't execute the laws. Did Franklin Roosevelt talk to congressional leaders before
we
the
didn't.
little raid on Tokyo. No, the reason we talked to the Russians was because their military forces in the area, and we would be conflating ours with them, so it made sense operationally. This just, I think, goes to this intense politicization of everything we see in Washington today. And the president is under no obligation to brief congressional leaders in advance of tactical, fairly small-scale military operations. And the fact that she would raise objections, I think, is just so petty.
Well, we should point out that earlier on the program, we had on John Radcliffe from the Intel Committee, and he said that there have been no hearings on Syria in weeks. And, it's Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff who are making the rules in terms of what testimonies they can hear from and what briefings that the House comes from. And they're in charge, and they are focused on impeachment and not a lot more. Christian, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you.
That's all they're focused on is impeachment. That's it. They don't care. And if they thought it would make Trump look bad, they would have jeopardized that mission. And you and I know that to be true. So, yeah, and it might not have been just Trump. It would have been, yes, it would make Trump look bad, but also it could cost the lives of men and women in the military service. And additionally, there were dogs there, so military dogs who are very, very highly trained, and one was injured. However, the dog is going to recover. He was brought back to, or she actually, it's a female dog. She was brought back to the United States and is being treated by a veterinarian, and he has been invited to the White House. So there you go. But yeah, there was some question yesterday whether the dog was okay, whether it was going to survive, because what happened was al-Baghdadi ran into this, tunnel that was a dead end, which probably not a smart thing to do. Well, really, actually not a smart thing to do, and took 3 kids with him, and he was wearing a suicide vest. So when he blew himself up, and along with the 3 children, the dog that had chased them in there was also injured, but not killed. And the dog is going to recover, from what I understand from the news tonight. So let's go back now, and let's look at this from California. Imagine a POTUS ordering the successful killing of a leader of ISIS and the media scrutinizing how he did it. Exactly. They don't realize that with every interview and every article, they help add hundreds of new Trump voters. So on behalf of America, thank you, fake news. And that is very, very well spoken, and it's true. Because I think even diehard Democrats are looking at Pelosi's reaction to this and going, what? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. They sure gave kudos to Obama when bin Laden died, if he did die. So, I think bin Laden's dead. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's alive somewhere walking around out there. I think he is dead, but I think he was dead far sooner than they would have us believe. All right. Now, this from the Imam of Peace, and he actually, although obviously Muslim, he is very, very for peace, not for all this jihad stuff. So anyway, he says President Trump, al-Baghdadi died like a dog and like a coward. Dogs are loved, but not by Islamic extremists. The worst thing you can call a desert Arab terrorist is a dog or coward. Trump knows that. That's why he called him both words. His followers will be going crazy now. So, yeah, that is the biggest insult that you can give to a Muslim, is to call them a dog or a coward. And Muslims, of course, hate dogs. The Prophet Muhammad did not like dogs, and so now all followers of Muhammad, they dislike dogs. They think they're dirty and whatever. And I know this because I have a friend that lives close by, and she and her husband had a beautiful, very expensive, gorgeous home on Lake Ontario. Well, it wasn't right on the lake. It was beside the lake. So anyway, they were trying to sell it, and the market that it was in was a very exclusive market because it's not everybody that could afford that place. It was yeah. So anyway, very, very exclusive market, and they had it on the market, and there was people, the Queen's University is near there, so there was a lot of, you know, upper people that were coming through. Some of them worked at the university and so forth, but the one, and it was by appointment only because, you know, this is kind of and she would take their two dogs, and she would have them boarded when the real estate agent was taking them through the house. Well, a Muslim couple came, and they were looking through the house, and they were ready to buy it. They were really like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous and right in our price range and everything. So one of them saw something belonging to the dog, one of the dogs, and all of a sudden eyes got big. Are there dogs in this house? And the real estate agent said, well, no, not right now. They're being boarded, but there's two dogs that live in this house. Oh, we don't want this house. Okay, we need to leave. We don't want this house. And they wouldn't take the house. They loved it. They loved everything about it. It was in their price range. It was right in the location that they wanted, but they wouldn't take it because dogs had lived there. Now, all that would take, they could hire somebody to come in, clean through it, so there isn't a dog hair to be seen anywhere. And of course, my friend is impeccably clean anyway, so you would never know a dog lived there except if you saw a toy or something. But yeah, so that is how much they don't want to be around dogs at all. And in this case, they didn't even want to live in a home where a dog had been. So yeah, very, very huge insult. Now, this from Brett McDonald. This guy, Pete Souza, is solely responsible for spreading the rumor that Trump was golfing during the raid. He originally claimed that it took place at 3:30 while Trump was golfing. Now, I bet some of you have heard that rumor. Well, it's a lie. It's a lie, which you probably knew that when you heard it. You probably went, nah, that sounds right, but I don't think so. And so that was the rumor that was going around, that Trump was golfing. But of course, that was fake news. So that fake news has been tweeted tens of thousands of times. His correction will hardly be seen. Of course not. They're going to carry the false story because that's what they want out there. That's what they want in people's ears. However, this is Pete Souza. He says, the latest reporting from the New York Times, the helicopters left Iraq at 5 p.m. Washington time, and they reported it was about a 70-minute flight to Syria. So actually, raid had to happen sometime after 6:10 p.m. And it says the raid, as reported, took place at 3:30 p.m. Washington time. The photo, as shown in the camera IPTC data, was taken at 17:05:24. So yeah, this is false news because apparently Trump was not golfing at the time of the raid. Now, whether he was before or after, I don't know. And I don't care, to tell you the truth, as long as he's doing the job that he was hired to do. And of course, it's interesting because he doesn't even take a salary for what he does. But as long as he's doing the job he's doing, I don't care. I don't care if he shows up one day a week. Look at the results. Look, I mean, I had a job one time and I was pretty much on call all the time. And if anything happened, I would have to come in and deal with it. And so I guess they were looking at, and they felt that I should be working much, much more overtime. And I said, thank goodness that I thought of this. I said, well, can you name something that's not done that I'm supposed to do? They said, no. Well, is there anything that I was supposed to do that I didn't do as well as I could have if I put more time into it? No. Well, then what's the problem? Really. So, yeah. Great. I hope he golfs to his heart's content. If that relieves him of stress and he's able to do, a better job and concentrate on the things that he wants to concentrate, who cares? He's doing the job that he was supposed to do. So, hey, golf away as far as I'm concerned. All right, now let's look at this. You know why? Just because. Come on now. Sometimes you have to talk nice to it. Okay. Remarks by President Trump on the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And this is on October 27th, so this is yesterday. Diplomatic reception room, 9:20 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The president, last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. The United States has been searching for Baghdadi for many years. Capturing or killing Baghdadi has been the top national security priority of my administration. U.S. Special Operations Forces executed a dangerous and daring nighttime raid in northwestern Syria and accomplished their mission in grand style. The U.S. personnel were incredible. I got to watch much of it. Now that's interesting when he says I got to watch much of it. Obviously they had the technology that he could watch what was going on, and I think that is very interesting. So obviously he wasn't golfing, right? You can't golf and watch a raid go on. Or maybe you can if you're Trump, because he is very talented. No personnel were lost in the operation, while a large number of Baghdadi's fighters and companions were killed with him. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. The compound had been cleared by this time, with people either surrendering or being shot and killed. 11 young children were moved out of the house and are uninjured. The only ones remaining were Baghdadi in the tunnel, and he had dragged 3 of his young children with him. They were led to certain death. I mean, he went into the tunnel with them, and he blew them up. So it's not even that the soldiers had a chance to rescue those children, but he did. Obviously, this guy had 11, 12, 13, 14 children. That's a lot. But 11 of them are safe. And so what is being done with them, I don't know, but I don't imagine they're harmed in any way. Well, except obviously what they experienced is pretty traumatic. So they were led to certain death. He reached the end of the tunnel as our dogs chased him down. He ignited his vest, killing himself and the 3 children. His body was mutilated by the blast. The tunnel had caved in on it in addition, but test results gave certain immediate and total positive identification. It was him. Now, I know a lot of people were asking, oh yeah, sure, how would they get an identification on him if he blew himself up? Well, apparently these vests almost always leave the head intact, and the head is separated from the body and rolls. I mean, I know this is gory information, but it's true apparently, because I've been reading up on it. Okay. The thug who tried so hard to intimidate others spent his last moments in utter fear, in total panic and dread, terrified of the American forces bearing down on him. We were in the compound for approximately 2 hours, and after the mission was accomplished, we took highly sensitive material and information from the raid, much having to do with ISIS origins, future plans, things that we very much want. Oh, they took a lot of sensitive material and information from the raid having to do with ISIS origins. Well, I think we know how ISIS started, don't we? So this could be very, very damaging for a certain guy whose name starts with O. Well, his last name starts with O. Who knows what his first name is? I guess it's Barry. I don't know. He's gone by several. Baghdadi's demise demonstrates America's relentless pursuit of terrorist leaders and our commitment to the enduring and total defeat of ISIS and other terrorist organizations. Our reach is very long. As you know, last month we announced that we recently killed Hamza bin Laden, the very violent son of Osama bin Laden, who was saying very bad things about people, about our country, about the world. He was heir apparent to Al-Qaeda. Terrorists who oppose and murder innocent people should never sleep soundly, knowing that we will completely destroy them. These savage monsters will not escape their fate, and they will not escape the final judgment of God. Baghdadi has been on the run for many years, long before I took office, but at my direction as Commander-in-Chief of the United States, we obliterated his caliphate. Oh, I hate when it does that. We obliterated his caliphate 100% in March of this year. I just want to make sure that this is still recording, and it is. Woohoo! I just had this fear, like I'm going to go through all this and it not record. Today's events are another reminder that we will continue to pursue remaining ISIS terrorists to their brutal end. That also goes for other terrorist organizations. They are, likewise, in our sights. Baghdadi and the losers who worked for him, and the losers they are, they had no idea they were what they were getting into. In some cases, they were very frightened puppies. Notice how he's got the same dog thing. Puppies. They're puppies. Baghdadi is a dog, but they're just puppies. In other cases, they were hardcore killers, but they killed many, many people. Their murder of innocent Americans, James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, Peter Kasich, and Kyla Muller, were especially heinous. The shocking publicized murder of Jordanian pilot, a wonderful young man, spoke to the King of Jordan. They all knew him. They all loved him. He was burned alive in a cage for all to see. And the execution of Christians in Libya and Egypt, as well as the genocidal mass murder of Yazidis, that's probably not how you pronounce that, rank ISIS among the most depraved organizations in the history of the world. The forced religious conversions, the orange suits prior to many beheadings, all of which were openly displayed for the world to see. This was all that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, this is what he wanted. This is what he was proud of. He was a sick and depraved man, and now he's gone. Baghdadi was vicious and violent, and he died in a vicious and violent way as a coward, running and crying. This raid was impeccable and could only have taken place with the acknowledgement and help of certain other nations and people. I want to thank the nations of Russia, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, and I also want to thank the Syrian Kurds for a certain support they were able to give us. This was a very, very dangerous mission. Thank you as well to the great intelligence professionals who helped make this very successful journey possible. I want to thank the soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines involved in last tonight's operation. It should be last night's operation. You are the best there is in the world. No matter where you go, there is nobody even close. I want to thank General Mark Miley and our Joint Chief of Staff, and I also want to thank our professionals who work in other agencies of the United States government and were critical to the mission's unbelievable success. Last night was a great night for the United States and for the world. A brutal killer, one who has caused so much hardship and death, has violently been eliminated. He will never again harm another innocent man, woman, or child. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place. God bless America. Thank you. Any questions? And the question is, when did you first hear that this was that this operation was going to get started? And the president, we've had him under surveillance for a couple of weeks. We knew a little bit about where he was going, where he was headed. We had good information. I'm not going to read through all this, but this question is interesting. They had body cameras, or how did you watch the? And the president says, well, I don't want to say how, but we had absolutely perfect, as though you were watching a movie. It was that. The technology there alone is really great. He doesn't want to say too much about that. A big part of the trip that was of great danger was it was approximately an hour and 10-minute flight, and we were flying over very, very dangerous territory. In fact, some of our leaders said that they could be the most dangerous flying in and flying out, and that's why last night we were so quiet about it. We didn't say anything, and I didn't make any remark until after they had landed safely in a certain area. But the flight in and flight out was a very, very dangerous part. That was a chance that we could have met with unbelievable fire. Russia treated us great. They opened up. We had to fly over certain Russia areas, Russia held areas. Russia was great. Iraq was excellent. We had great cooperation. And you have to understand, they didn't know what we were doing and where we were going exactly, but the ISIS fighters are hated as much by Russia and some of these countries as they are by us. And that's why I say they shouldn't start doing a lot of the fighting now, and they'll be able to. I really believe they'll be able to. And so, yeah, I'm not going to read through all these questions because probably a lot of you saw this press release. But this is very interesting part. It says, question, and have you notified the congressional leaders about this? Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, the president. We've notified some. Others are being notified now as I speak. We were going to notify them last night, but we decided not to do that because Washington leaks like I've never seen before. There's no country in the world that leaks like we do, and Washington is a leaking machine. And I told my people, we will not notify them until our great people are out, not just in, but out. I don't want to have them greeted with firepower like you wouldn't believe. So we were able to get in. It was top secret. It was kept. There were no leaks, no nothing. The only people that knew were the few people that I dealt with. And again, Mark Miley and the Joint Chiefs of Staff were incredible. We had some tremendous backup. Robert O'Brien, Secretary Pompeo, Pence, and Pence, I told you he was great. There's a small group of people that knew about this. We had a very, very few people. A leak could have cost the death of all of them. And see, that's how important that was. And I wouldn't have told them anything. Now, they're so good that I think there was nothing going to stop them anyway. If you want to know the truth, that's how good they are. We had them also surrounded by massive air power up in the air yesterday, surrounded at very high levels. We were very low. We had tremendous air power. And the journalist asked, and you watched all this from the Situation Room? Who were you with in the Situation Room when you watched this? The president, Secretary Esper, a few of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Miley, some generals, he means Pompeo there, of course. We had some very great military people in that room, and we have some great intelligence people. Robert O'Brien. It was really great. Yes. So that is all I'm going to read from that. I'm going to go on because we've got much more to get to. So let's now, okay, this from the Imam of Peace. A source in Washington, D.C. tells me that President Trump plans to step down from his office as President of the United States effective noon on Monday, the 20th of January 2025. When I first read that, as I was reading through it, my heart was sinking like, what? Trump is stepping down? And then I saw the date and I laughed. I just thought that was the greatest. So I had to do it to all of you. I don't know if any of your hearts sank, but mine most certainly did when I was reading that for the first time. Okay, now let's look at this. And this is incredibly false reporting from CNN. Well, if CNN is reporting, it's false because they never seem to tell the truth about anything. It says King tries to disprove Donald Trump's claim that there couldn't be a quid pro quo because Ukraine didn't know aid was being held up. He says Ukraine knew. Ukraine did not know about the aid during the call. They knew in August. The call was in July. So CNN, unbelievable. I wish that they would do their jobs, like seriously. I don't know why they call themselves a news agency. That should be false advertising. All right. And let's look at this. Now, this won't surprise you at all. Bombshell, Obama White House ignored intel from Saudi Crown Prince after 9/11, revealing Osama bin Laden was in Iran, running Al-Qaeda. And of course, they knew he wasn't in Iraq. They knew that. It was just a pretext to go in there, to carry on this feud that Papa Bush had with Osama bin Laden. Or not Osama bin Laden, but Hussein. Not Obama Hussein, but Saddam Hussein, who was, I don't know if you know this, but he was a CIA asset. And yes, he was. Somebody tried to challenge me on that, and because I said I knew that for a fact. Well, I do know it for a fact. So, yeah. I don't mind being challenged if it's something that I don't know, but I do happen to know that for real. All right. Just don't ask me how I know, because I can't tell you. All right. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia during the Obama administration provided intelligence that Osama bin Laden and his son were running the Al-Qaeda terror cartel out of Iran. White House correspondence with former CIA Director John Brennan show, according to explosive revelations in a book from intelligence insiders and highly secret government documents. Brennan, who was working under Obama at the time in the White House, did nothing to pursue the information and try to shut bin Laden down or pursue the wanted terror leader after 9/11, high-ranking officials confirmed, as detailed in the upcoming book, Pain, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas. White House communication between Brennan and the royal Saudis also confirmed the two countries, Saudi Arabia and Iran, had struck an official security pact where the two governments would cooperate with each other and had promised a ceasefire on terror attacks in Saudi Arabia. Months later, with the help of the Saudis in 2001, after the 9/11 attacks, intelligence officials said the Saudis helped broker a deal for bin Laden's safekeeping in Iran. This included top Al-Qaeda leaders as well. And the highest-ranking U.S. official in the George W. Bush and Barack Obama White Houses, and possibly the presidents themselves, knew where bin Laden was and did nothing to capture him, according to insider revelations and documents detailed in Mike Thomas Paine Moore's upcoming book, Pain, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas. The book's revelations reveal that the United States was working with Saudi Arabia and Iran to keep bin Laden's living arrangements in Iran very quiet. And you know what this means. It means that they knew full well that Obama was not in Iraq, and that was all just... And why Afghanistan? He was never in Afghanistan. Well, we know why they went to Afghanistan. It wasn't fighting terrorists either. All right. So, John Brennan was CIA station chief in Saudi Arabia at the time of the Saudi and Iranian Security Pact, but shortly before bin Laden's death, the Saudis shared their frustration with the U.S. that bin Laden and Al-Qaeda from Iran were not following the security agreements between the two countries, believed by many to be mortal enemies. Documents from the Obama White House show Osama bin Laden, the founder and leader of terrorism conglomerate Al-Qaeda, who was responsible for the deadly and devastating September 11th, 2001 attacks on U.S. soil, never was hiding in Afghanistan or its damp caves. And, of course, that was all about the poppies. Yeah. Thousands of Americans died that day and many more in the wretched aftermath. Instead, incredibly, bin Laden was whisked to safe harbor in Iran following the deadly attacks on the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon, and the downing of the commercial jet in western Pennsylvania targeting the White House. Moore said interviews with government intel operators, informants, lawmakers, and top secret documents prove U.S. officials ignored pleas from congressmen, federal agents, and even a Democratic governor to capture bin Laden in Iran. Instead, such whistleblowers were investigated by Hillary Clinton's State Department and met with illegal wiretaps, surveillance, and harassment. Can you imagine? Moore notes that the U.S. Special Counsel Robert Mueller was serving as FBI director during the national fraud, and high-ranking FBI officials acknowledged the FBI knew bin Laden was living in Iran. Along with the CIA, Mueller's FBI had ignored intel for years showing and proving bin Laden's whereabouts. This is the man investigating President Trump. Yeah, let that sink in. Scary, isn't it? The top lieutenants and captains serving al-Qaeda were also given safe passage in Iran, as were their families, along with bin Laden's family. These terrorists included bin Laden's son, who safely ran al-Qaeda from Iran even after bin Laden's reported execution. Meanwhile, U.S. officials looked the other way and ramped up the war in Afghanistan. Got to get those poppies. And the thing is, you know, if you go back and look at all of the evidence in 9/11, when all of the flights were grounded, and they were grounded, I believe they were grounded in Canada. Of course, I was in the United States when this happened, but I believe they were grounded in Canada as well. All flights were grounded, not worldwide, but certainly in North America. And so when absolutely no flight was landing on U.S. soil or taking off, there was a plane that took off from, it was either California or Texas. I'd have to look that up. That is a little bit fuzzy in my mind now, but it was bin Laden's family. And who do you think got them out and to safety? Yeah, George W. Bush. And that's a fact. You can go and look that up yourself. Please do. Don't ever take my word for anything I say, really. I don't want you to take my word for anything. I want you to check it out yourself, especially if you think it, and that doesn't sound right, because I can be wrong. I'm never going to lie about something that I absolutely know to be the truth, but if it's something that I've heard or that I'm reporting on or whatever, please don't take my word alone. Especially if it just doesn't sound right to you, because I want that check and balance there. So the $150 billion guarantee to Iran by the Osama administration nuclear deal, plus an unprecedented $1.8 billion in cash, was a ransom for Iran to keep quiet about bin Laden's stealth living arrangements and the U.S.'s involvement in allowing his terror network to operate with Iran. The story is developing. Moore's book, Pain, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas, details and documents the incredible betrayal. Moore was targeted by the FBI while researching this story, and his home was invaded by FBI twice, pointing guns at his young children and wife, as detailed in the book. They tried to ruin my life, and they almost did, Moore said. But now I get my say. Now it's my turn to tell Americans what really happened on 9/11 on the inside. Mike Thomas Payne Moore today serves as the True Pundit's chief muckraker. Moore Payne previously worked for the FBI, White House, DEA, among many other intel agencies and private concerns. He is the recipient of the coveted Gerald Loeb Award for Journalism and two-time Pulitzer Prize for Investigative Reporting nominee. As a certified fraud examiner, Moore previously headed anti-money laundering operation for Citi in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Delaware. He has an expertise in covert telecommunications, counterintelligence, human intelligence, and OSINT, intelligence gathering. So, yeah, he definitely knows what he's talking about. I want to get that book. I mean, I always want to get every book because I love books, but this definitely sounds like a book that I must read, and I plan to do so. So let's go on, because time is ticking here and we're not nearly through what we need to get through. I am going to do 2 videos, but I would like to cover everything in those 2 videos. I don't want to have little bits and pieces left over. That way tomorrow we can start fresh, because I do have some stuff that I have to get to you. It's very timely, and it's deadly serious. So I do want to get that to you tomorrow, so I want to be sure that I've covered everything tonight. So let me pick up the pace here. And here, of course, you've probably seen this because a lot of people are commenting on this. Obama admits that he trained ISIS. And of course he did. He supplied them with everything they needed. They trained them, the whole 9 yards. We know that. I remember telling people about that, oh gosh, many years ago, and saying, look, you know, the U.S. created ISIS. And they were like, yeah, right. You know, it was like, yeah, you need your medication. But it's absolutely true.
As I've said before, this aspect of our strategy was moving too slowly, but the fall of Ramadi has galvanized the Iraqi government. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes.
They're what? They're speeding up the training of ISIL forces. Now, let's just for a second here, because I want to make sure this is crystal clear to everyone. ISIL is ISIS, but let's do ISIL versus ISIS. Excuse me. Okay. ISIL is the Islamic State of Iraq, and it's abbreviated as ISIL. So it says the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, officially known as the Islamic State and also known by its Arabic name, is a terrorist group and a former unrecognized proto-state that follows a fundamentalist Salafi jihadist doctrine of Sunni Islam. So they're training the ISIL forces, which is the same thing as ISIS. It is the same thing. They're interchangeable, really. And so they're training them and adding Sunni Muslims in. Well, let's go back and see what he says here.
Volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
Hang on.
ISIL forces, including speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
Yeah, so he said we're speeding up. We're speeding up the training of them, meaning that they were already training them, but we're speeding up the training now. And who provided them with all their weapons and their equipment and everything else and the money? Yeah, the Obama administration. Sure they did. Absolutely. Now, why the heck would you train this ISIL, whatever you want to call it, and the Sunni Muslims, very fundamentalist? Why would you want to give them weapons, knowing that they are a terrorist organization? Why would you want to give them weapons and train them? Why would you want to, it doesn't even make sense. You can't fight a war with terrorists. You can't arm terrorists and think that they're going to fight your war for you. So yes, absolutely. The U.S., I don't know if they created ISIS, but they most certainly had a great deal to do with their founding. So there you go. Let's go back now, because we can. And yes, let's look at this. Well, it's about Schiff lying, but when does that not happen? I mean, he lies about everything. Now, it says Crenshaw catches Schiff in a lie by reading House rules on impeachment hearings. Now, I think he'll appreciate this. California Representative Adam Schiff, the man who is leading the impeachment parade in the House, got taken to school by a new representative. Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw challenged the claim by Schiff that regular House members are not entitled to see impeachment documents. Chairman Adam Schiff said that non-committee members can't have access to all the hearing and depositions that have been happening with respect to the impeachment inquiry. Is that true? He said. So he's asking the question. It says, let's check the House rules. He said he pointed to the 2019 House Rules and Manual for the current Congress. Such records shall be the property of the House and each member, meaning we can actually go look at them, he said, from the rules. And he's correct. Looking at the rules, it does support what Representative Crenshaw says. Except, as provided in Subdivision B, all committee records, including hearings, data, charts, and files, shall be kept separate and distinct from the congressional office records of the members serving as its chair. Such records shall be the property of the House, and each member, delegate, and the resident commissioner shall have access thereto, it said. He went he went to the secure room where the hearings were being held and was told he could not see any of the transcripts related to the hearings. What's more is that he said he was told by Republicans that are on the committee that they also were not allowed to see the transcripts. What is the process here? Where is the transparency? There is none, and that should frustrate all Americans, he said. And so, yeah, he was concerned because Adam Schiff wasn't allowing anybody to see the transcripts from the impeachment inquiry. And it says Schiff isn't allowing representatives to see transcripts from the impeachment inquiry, but he's selectively leaking small portions to the press. Process should be transparent to American people. It should be a fair process with clear rules, just like past impeachment inquiries. And I'd have to ask, why is it that this is so highly secretive that other members of Congress or whoever can see this? You know, it's so highly secret, but it's not too secret to leak it to the press? Doesn't make sense there unless you're thinking about, gee, he's wanting to selectively leak so that he can make it sound one way when it's really another. For example, like what he did with the president's call. When he made that entire thing up, it wasn't anywhere even close to what the actual conversation was. And he's doing this again with the leaking. And if he has control over it and says, oh, it's all secret, it's all a secret, nobody can see, and then leaks the parts that he wants to leak to the press. I mean, how secretive could it be if he's leaking it to the press? I'm just saying. Yeah, we know what he's up to. He thinks he's so clever too. That makes me laugh so hard. It's like, I don't know what it is about these people that they do the most idiotic, asinine things, and then they're like as if they're smart and they've gotten away with something when everybody can see right through them. They're transparent as glass because they're simple-minded. Anyway. All right, let's look at this. And this again, I'm going to skip this part because we do have some stuff to get through here. But again, this was the Gateway Pundit writing about why didn't Trump notify Pelosi? Well, I think we know why. And he said, no, I didn't want to I wanted to make sure this was kept secret. I don't want to have men lost and women lost. So I don't think we need to see that particularly at this point because I want to go on here. And it said this from Pamela Bogie, and she is responding to Charlie Kirk, who says, disgusting. Today, the Washington Post described the brutal, murdering maniac al-Baghdadi as an austere religious scholar. The Washington Post writes harsher about our president than they do about the leader of ISIS who cuts people's heads off and murders innocents. And she said, isn't that ridiculous? CBS spent half the time denigrating this accomplishment as well. That's what they do. That's what they do. Now, I got to take you to this because, yeah, I think this is it. Maybe not, though. No, this is something else. But before
In Syria
hang
and
on.
Turkey.
Before I show you this, I want to show you something. Let me shut down these. I don't need like 100,000. Okay, because of Washington Post saying that he was an austere religious scholar instead of saying that he was a vicious, serial murderer, terrorist, everybody started this hashtag Washington Post death notices. And it's hysterical because they're using all these terrible people and giving them wonderful death notices like Hitler and so forth. So let me see if I can find a few for you, just for fun. But they were everywhere. So Washington Post death notices. Jeffrey Dahmer, connoisseur of exotic and locally sourced meats, dies at 34. See, this is an example. This was all over Twitter, and I'm not sure. I guess that's my humor, but it made me laugh. Yeah. And this, Adolf Hitler, dedicated art enthusiast, animal rights activist, and talented orator, dies at 56. Yeah, talk about, glossing over a person's, like an austere religious scholar. Okay. Now let's find Hannibal Lecter, well-known forensic psychiatrist and food connoisseur, dead at 81. So there's a whole bunch of these, and you can look them up for yourself if you're on Twitter. They are quite hysterical. Satan, unorthodox faith leader known for pushing back against famous winemaker Jesus, dies at 14 billion. Oh, yeah. Jeffrey Epstein, financier, philanthropist, and friend to royalty, dies in austere one-room apartment. That's one of my favorites as well. Okay, well, time's a ticking, so I better move on here. Now, this is really critical to understanding what is happening in Turkey, Syria, with the Kurds and all that. Okay, it's critical to understanding all this. And so this is why I'm bringing it to you, because I know for us here, we think about the stuff going on over there and we don't understand it because we're listening to a narrative that's already been made up for us, right? Well, this guy, this is very good. It says, I'm going to let him speak instead of reading this because he explains it very well. It's 1 minute and 35 seconds, but it is well worth the time.
In Iraq or other parts of the Middle East, we are fighting against a terrorist network. The fact that PYD-YPG has become a primary force against Daesh in Syria is due to the fact that the Obama administration decided to support them with immense military equipment, ammunition, weapons, training, money, and political support.
See, Turkey, okay, Syria, like on the border with Turkey, has all this terrorist activity, okay? Obama administration armed them, trained them, everything. Turkey doesn't care about the Kurds. I mean, they do care about them, but they're not trying to kill them. Imagine if the United States had terrorists right at the border, either in the southern border or the northern border. Not too far-fetched, mind you. And do you think that they would just sit back on their haunches and go, yeah, that's terrible what's happening in Mexico. Oh, it's awful what's happening in Canada. You think so? I don't think so. I think they'd be very concerned. Like, you know what? That could trickle over the border very easily. So that is what the deal is there with Turkey, encroaching on Syria. They're not trying to wipe out the Kurds. The terrorists are, but they're not. And so, yeah, this whole thing is just, it's so ridiculous and it's so blown out of proportion by the mainstream media.
They had decided to work with another group, legitimate group in Syria, like the Syrian Arab Free Syrian Army, Syrian National Council, Turkoman, and many others in Syria, they will have been the most effective force against Daesh. You cannot fight one terrorist organization with another one.
That's right.
Everybody knows that PYD-YPG is PKK in Syria, and PKK is listed as a terrorist organization in Europe, in the United States, and other parts of the world. The PKK's ultimate goal in Syria is to create a state of their own. And we cannot let that happen vis-a-vis Syria's territorial integrity, but also since it's a terrorist organization that's been fighting against us for the last 35 years, we cannot let PKK or any other terrorist network to have some kind of a state structure right at our border. Our
Makes
fight
sense.
is against the terrorists, not against the Kurds. There are thousands of Kurds in Syria who do not subscribe to PYD's, YPG's Marxist-Leninist ideology. It's really an irony of history.
So can I just get some clarity on
now that
what
in
you're
21st
saying for our viewers here?
United
Just,
States
are
has
you
picked
talking
up
about
the
potentially an
Marxist-Leninist
all-out
organization
assault
as an ally.
on the YPG?
Yeah, see, he's wanting to get that in because, see, nobody's listening. And it's not Turkey. Turkey doesn't want to attack the Kurds. They're attacking the terrorists. That's what they're after. Now, if that terrorist happens to be Kurdish, then yes. But a lot of the Kurds are not involved in this terrorist organization. But they cannot let this terrorist organization become entrenched there and set up an actual organized form of government there, because they're right on the border with Turkey, and Turkey can't have that. And so I don't know, like, them saying that, oh yeah, well, if the Americans pull out, then all the Kurds will die. Well, that's not true, because first of all, there was very few American troops there. Second of all, the troops weren't able to fire on anyone. They were just there. Really, this whole thing has been so twisted, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think that Pelosi and these guys even really understand. Maybe they do. Maybe they do really understand. But I think that the reason why they're upset is because it's encroaching on their money-making, their illegal money-making activities. That's what the deal is. So let's go back here. And I know time's getting away from me here, but I do want to just cover a couple more things, and then I'm going to split it. Well, I'll stop, and then I'll do another video to try and get all this in before tomorrow, because I do want, there's something that I feel like I absolutely have to cover tomorrow. So now this by a person called Trigonometry. Isn't it ironic? Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, hated dogs, so all Muslims are taught to hate dogs. Yet it was a military dog who chased down Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in an underground tunnel on his last day on this earth. Yes, I think that's awesome. I like it. And you can't make me not like it. All right. So, okay, here was the bit about the Washington Post death notices. So let me, I'm going to end it there, because I think we've been going for an hour now, and I'm going to get this uploaded, and I will be back with another video, because really this one is just replacing the one yesterday I already did, but it didn't record. So, and let's just hope it's still recording there. It is! Woohoo! Yay! Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Stay safe, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. And I'll see you in the next video. Oops. That didn't work for some reason. Here we go.